can kind of see why we chose this sutra, Transforming Violence and Fear. Kind of applicable to this time, I think. And just reading through the first sentence here, where it says, people have brought society into a state of terror and violence. Well, that's already pretty gripping. Kind of entices us to wonder just how applicable it is to our situation today. How have our ancestors acted in a way to bring about our present day violence? So I'll offer a short story here. So a child was taught by his father that there were only two kinds of people in this world: winners and losers. Do what you have to do to win. As a rite of passage, the child was sent to military school at 13 years old. He thrived in the competitiveness of that environment, yelling at his classmates, pushing them around. As an adult, the only way you would get an acknowledgement out of him that he made a mistake is when he would say, "You know, I think my dad would have done that differently." Who knows who I'm talking about? Does that sound familiar at all? This is actually a true story. This is actually the childhood past of our current president. Okay. So I'll get to why I shared that story. The Sanskrit word that we use for mindfulness is smriti. You kind of see that in a stained glass window over at Deer Park. That's part of 3 different facets. But the literal translation is recollection or memory. So remembering to stay present, not caught in anxieties from the past, no worries about the future. This is much more difficult than it seems. The past in particular influences our perceptions and decisions in the present moment in subtle ways that are almost impossible to notice, and so profoundly that even our free will is in question. How much of our thoughts, speech, and actions are uniquely us, and not an echo of the beliefs, fears, and habitual tendencies of our own ancestors? I'm just going to read a bit from paragraph 5 here. The pain brought about by the sharp-pointed knife lasts a long time without changing. People hold on to that knife wherever they go, so that their pain spills out into the world. Only when they have a chance to recognize the knife and take it out of their hearts will their suffering cease, and they'll have a chance to stop running. So if I were shot by a rifle, would I refuse medical attention and wander the streets shouting for the shooter to reveal what political party he's affiliated with? I would probably bleed out and die, right? So what needs to be addressed in the present is forgotten because I'm ruminating on the past. This is the difference between afflicted pain and deeply seated trauma that perpetuates suffering. How many of us walk through this world carrying internal wounds, just bleeding out everywhere? Do we actually seek treatment? Or is our pride more important? Instead of looking within to discover what sadness fans the flames of our anger, we become swept in the emotional turbulence of society, distracting ourselves with fanciful stories of our self-righteousness and an evil that threatens our way of life lurking somewhere out there. This type of fear narrows our perception of reality to the size of a keyhole. Despite the complexity of life, it becomes impossible to see a human being past anything other than a single label. You're a Marxist. You're a Nazi. Yada, yada, right? If my enemy disappeared from the earth tomorrow, would I be happy? Or would a new enemy simply emerge to take their place because the pain that I have bottled up inside would continue to spill out into the lives of those who came anywhere near me, or even my own social media feed? If only I had the courage to turn my attention inward and pull the knife out of my own heart, would the flames cool and my body begin to heal? So a few weeks ago, in a disagreement with my partner, I once told her that I'm not enough for her and that she would be happier with somebody else who can give her what she needs. Yeah, I did say that to her. What I didn't know at the time was that I actually wasn't speaking to my partner. I was speaking to my parents. For those who do not know, my father went to prison when I was 4 years old, and my mother gave me to my grandparents to raise shortly thereafter. After weddings and graduations, with no parents in sight, I began to wonder, was I not good enough for them? As I grew older, I realized the wounds that my parents carried. Scars that never healed properly and would reopen when they were around me. Ruminations on stories of their own childhood abuse, not too much different from my own. We are encouraged in this sutra not to be caught in these stories, but rather to be aware of their impact on our behaviors that rob us of our relationship with the present moment. Obaku Kyun was a Chinese Chan master, or Zen master, who wrote, "A monk asks, 'How can I be free of the past?' Obaku said, 'Who binds you?' And the monk replied, 'No one.' Obaku then says, 'Then why are you still clutching the chain?' Oftentimes I'm going through life clutching onto this chain, but I'm constantly running, not addressing the fact that I'm holding on to this thing the entire time. In the sutra it says, 'I maintain that craving pleasure is the most destructive force.' Does this mean no more pumpkin spice lattes? Should I join the FIRE movement and just save money for retirement while eating ramen? Do you know the FIRE movement? Right? It's that like early retirement plan that they do. It's like you live as an ascetic, right? And you just try to save as much money as you can so you can retire when you're like 30. That was a big thing a couple of years ago. And then people were like, damn it, I want to be actually like to enjoy life while I still got it. It's difficult to figure out exactly how much pleasure we're allowed to indulge in, particularly in this practice. But the type of pleasure mentioned here is no mere tasty snack. This is an unquenchable thirst to rid our lives of pain. We may engage in the abuse of substances to numb ourselves or in pursuits for control by ascending into positions of power and money. Whatever it takes to make sure that we never feel that pain again. To prove our worth to our dead parents, maybe. We may incite wars while claiming our right to be handed a Nobel Peace Prize. And for what? This is a game that is taught to our children and continues long after we die. This is how our ancestors have perpetuated suffering, because the root of our pain hasn't been addressed properly. Do you increase your dose of Tums for your pancreatic cancer? This is what we mean when we say ignorance. It also says in the sutra, when there are no more false notions, your suffering ends. Practitioners meditate on the emptiness of phenomena and are no longer caught in them. Having seen directly the great way that leads to peace, they are no longer caught in any of the views that exist in the world. Whoa! That's a big statement. No longer caught in views. None. No political views, no Buddhist views, not even an ethical code. The practitioner does not cling to anything in their present environment, and there is no longer the need to discriminate between friend and enemy. So this passage encouraged me to let go of that which I cannot control in my present environment. Inner peace was realized when I released my fear of pain from an external threat. Instead, my time and focus has been on how I can face the knife within my own heart. That is the generational trauma that I have inherited, so that it doesn't continue to spill out into the world. As Thich Nhat Hanh wrote in his book, No Mud, No Lotus, when you recognize and embrace your pain with mindfulness, it begins to lose its energy of domination. He compared this to a mother hearing her child cry. Does she scold and scream at the baby to make the crying stop? No. She holds the child close to her until it calms down. In the same way, when our wounded inner child visits us in the present moment to draw attention to its pain, we can make the time to hold that pain with our awareness until our peace returns. We do not suppress our pain because understanding and compassion cannot manifest without it. The lotus needs the mud in order to bloom. And as a practice for us here today, just a little bit of an exercise. If you choose to partake, you don't have to. But I made these cute little cutouts of like these daggers, right? To represent the knife in our own hearts. And so I'll hand these around to folks. And you can take some time for the rest of the day, how much time you need to think about, what is the pain that I've been holding on to and not addressing properly? What is that pain that's been spilling out into the world in ways that we may not able to recognize because we haven't looked at it deeply? And I've got some markers here, so you can go ahead and write on the knife here, what is that pain that we're not addressing? Just a little fun activity. I'll go ahead and invite a sound of the bell.